What a time to be alive, right? What a time to be alive. You've got this little device in your pocket, lets you call cabs, it lets you order food from where you are. In fact, it even lets you find true love or flings. But it's an amazing time to be alive. You've got robots that cook food for you. You've got machines that actually print products. They literally print products. You've got cars that drive themselves. And you've got this crazy guy who wants all of us to take a spaceship to Mars and stay there forever. And then you've got classrooms that look like this. What a time to be alive. The education system that we are in and that we use was designed and conceptualized in the late 1800s. Let that sink in for a bit. The education system that we spent 15 to 20 years of our life in was designed at a time when cars didn't exist. Electricity was magic. And if you went and asked somebody what a computer is, they would look at you and just think that you are crazy and that you've run a and this is the issue, right? Nobody has ever questioned the system. Nobody has ever sort of stood up and said that why are we still following a system which is 300 years old? And I think it's very ironic. The system that teaches you how to question things was never questioned. And I think and to sort of, whenever I think of education and the system and stuff like that, I very clearly remember math class I had once, right? And the teacher walked in and she drew a right angle triangle and she said, we are going to learn Pythagoras. And according to Pythagoras' theorem, the square of the hypotenuse in a right angle triangle is equal to the sum of the square of the sides. And then she said, repeat after me. The square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the sides. And we kept on repeating it till we by-hearted the entire statement that the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the sides. It was so amazing that if you actually got a student who was sleeping and just went next to him or her and just said, my dog is sick, they would wake up and the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the sides. And this was amazing till I raised my hand and I asked the teacher, why? Why is the sum of the square of the sides equal to the square of the hypotenuse? And she tells me, you cannot ask why. This is maths. You can't ask why in maths. And this is our education system. This is the system that we are using to sort of prepare students for the world that we live in. We are producing more data on a daily basis than we have produced through the history of humanity. So if you count from 3,000, 4,000 years, right, and the amount of information that was produced in 4,000 years, we are producing that in a single day. And we are still stuck to this system where engineering colleges are teaching code that is not even used in production. I once took a computer class where I had to write code on a paper. I had to literally take a pen and write code. And this is something that makes sense. Because if you look at the world that we are in a world where computers have started to learn now. Machine learning is a field of computing where you can actually teach a computer and you can make the computer understand a lot of things. This is Benjamin, not the guy in the picture. The guy in the picture is not Benjamin. The algorithm that wrote the movie is Benjamin. And Benjamin is a computer that understood how movies are made. Benjamin is a computer that understood how scripts are written. And Benjamin went through 500 hours of movie scripts and then wrote a script. And we made a movie out of it. I mean, let that sink in for a bit. You have a computer that understood this complex process of converting words into sentences, sentences into paragraphs, paragraphs into stories into dialogues and creating sets around it, creating the entire scenes around it, and it actually wrote a movie. And let me tell you how, at a basic level, how this works. So what we have here is Google TensorFlow, which is a machine learning library. And what it's trying to do is, it's trying to understand the statement, I booked a ticket to Google. Right? And when I say understand the statement, it's not going to store, I booked a ticket to Google as 6 different words is going to actually book them and understand the meaning of the statement, I booked the ticket to Google. Now let's pause here for a minute and think about if we were to write this algorithm, how would we do it? I think the first logical step is that you break down the sentence into individual words, and then you understand the meaning of every word that is there. The next thing that you do is you start giving context to these words, right? And we all know it. Words are given context by other words. So you start with I, then you go to book, then you go to A, then you go back to book, then you go to ticket, and then you sort of create this entire logic where you say, okay, I is a subject, book is a verb, A is a and you have the subject object, and this entire statement is created. You need to write this logic and now convert it back to code so that the computer can understand it. So for us to parse one statement of I booked the ticket, get a computer to understand it, we need to know computer science, we need to know how to code, we need to know advanced physics, and we need to know grammar really, really well. I mean, who thought grammar would ever be useful in our life, right? But this is the world that we live in. This is the world that we are in. This is Burning Man, an event that happens in the desert of Nevada for 10 days. And it's that sort of, it's about music, it's about art, it's about freedom of expression, and a lot of other things. This was my favorite art piece as Burning Man. It's called the Sonic. Okay? The idea here is that you have multiple sort of tunnels. It's a tunnel of multiple gates, which has lights, and these lights have a pattern according to the sound that is created around them. Let's think about how you would create a sonic runway, right? You need to know, firstly, you need to know how to capture sound. Secondly, you need to know how to work with lights. Thirdly, you need to understand how the signal of sound will convert to the light. Fourthly, you need to understand how to build these circular things. You need to understand woodworking, you need to understand the physics of building it, and you need to understand design, obviously, otherwise these lights would look pathetic. Produce an art piece which is as simple as this, you need a variety of knowledge to create something like this in the middle of the desert. Let's talk about the Wi-Fi trash bin. A lot of people think that it's a really cool idea and it's all about, oh, you trash into the bin and you get Wi-Fi, and it is a cool idea. But the thing is, when we started with this, right, the question was very simple. The question was, why don't we throw garbage in a trash can? And we thought about it, we thought quite a bit about it, and we figured out that the reason we don't do that is because we are not incentivized to do that. I mean, nobody comes and pats you on the back if you throw the garbage in the can. It's a very thankless activity. Nobody says, you can't put that on your CV that I put all my garbage in the trash can. Nobody thanks you for that. And we realized that here's a problem, right? So our problem statement was very simple. It was, why don't people use trash cans? And while thinking about that question, we thought of, well, people love to use Wi-Fi, but they don't use trash cans. And we somehow figured out that if we could give them Wi-Fi every time they trashed, it becomes an incentive. And I mean, as humans, we really like pats on our backs and not slaps on our faces. So we realized that we need to start patting people on their back. Maybe it could be with Wi-Fi. But it was very simple to say that let's create a trash can that gives Wi-Fi. When we actually went into creating it, right, there were a lot of things that we had to work around with. We had to figure out how the Wi-Fi would talk to the trash can, how the trash can would detect the garbage that goes into it, how this entire system is going to display the code. We had to figure out what the trash can looked like, what materials would be used, what were the dimensions of the trash can, and a lot of other things. All the things that I spoke about today, the self-driving car, the robot that cooks for you, the computer that writes a script, everything that I spoke about today are things that exist. These are not things that are going to be built over the next 10 years or over the next 50 years or over the next 100 years. These are things that are being built as of today. And if you think about it, we are still stuck in this archaic historical system which does nothing else but helps you rote learn things so that you can put it out on a piece of paper. You have a system that doesn't teach you things, it sort of just gives you answers to questions. And imagine this, right? If this is what we are creating today with the amount of information that we have, think about what will we be creating 100 years down the line. And now imagine a system that would enable you to actually create that. A system of learning that actually enables you to innovate faster. And I think it cannot be a system that looks at students as input and then produces batches of 500 or batches of thousands, right? I think it has to be a system that looks at you as an individual. I think it has to be a system that recognizes your interests, that recognizes your strengths, your weaknesses, what sort of excites you, what doesn't excite you, and creates a path of learning. Because eventually it's about learning. It's not about getting a job or about getting a degree or whatever, right? It's about learning and it's about creating things with that. So we need a system which sort of understands what you do, understands what you like, understands what your strengths are, gives you the time to learn things at your own pace, does not judge you by your age, does not say that if you're 16 you have to be in 10th, if you're 14 you have to be in 8th or whatever it is. It sort of lets you develop into a unique individual and not into batches.